Here.
Leah? Here. Jim?
Here.
Jeff?
Here.
I am also here. The meeting has been properly noticed. Yes. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a volunteer to read the mission statement tonight.
I can do it.
Thank you.
The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you, Jessica. Moving on to number 2, the agenda. Approval of the presented agenda.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Leah. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 2B, approval of the July 6, 2021 board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Jeff. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 3. 3A is our school news.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. Hope you're enjoying your summer. The term lazy days of summer is not applicable to the Mount Horeb Area School District. We are in our second week of our second summer school session. That started this morning and will conclude here come this Friday. It really has been a successful experience, and in fact, there'll be a report to the board with our summer school principal, a gentleman by the name of Eric McCormick. I know you know him well, just a good man. And then we are preparing 45 more days until school starts in full. And last week, a letter was sent out to families just reminding them of some of the procedures and routines we've established for the upcoming school year, and then also an opportunity to look at student schedules and pay fees and those kinds of things. So if by chance you are listening and you didn't get that email, we're happy to connect with you. It's never a problem. We can share that with you. And then I'll also have a link to that in our board recap.
Thank you, Dr. Salerno. Board members, does anybody else have any school news? All right, we'll move on to 3B, citizens' comments. Shelby, do we have any citizens signed up to speak tonight?
Not as of yet.
Okay. Citizens' comments? Okay. We will move on to 4. 4A is our personnel transactions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Leah. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is our consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull out?
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Jessica to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to 6 discussion items. 6A is our presentation of the FFA. Welcome.
Oh, you want us to come down?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
We're glad you're here tonight. Welcome.
Sitting?
However you're most comfortable.
Okay, we'll just kind of chat. How's that?
That's right.
I think you all know, my name is Pam Allen, an ag teacher and FFA advisor at high school, and this is Caitlin Krantz, one of the participants on our trip. So just to give you a little bit of background of the trip, and then Caitlin will kind of explain some of the pictures that we have. Our FFA has taken a trip to Canada we went 51 times in a row. And then, of course, last year, COVID hit, and we had a lot of uncertainty coming into this year. And so one of the other chaperones and I, our FFA alumni president, Mitch Sutter, on a Sunday morning in November, it's kind of like getting concert tickets, but they opened up the national park reservation system, and, you know, he was at his house and I was at school, and we were trying to, you know, get a place. And so we found a group site in Voyageurs National Park on Crane and Sandpoint Lake, and we'll show you where that is. Yeah, there it is. And it is, if you look at the map, it's like, okay, here's the lake and here's civilization, and then north of it is just, it's all this national park, which also borders the Quantico and the Superior National Forest and the boundary waters. It's all like this big conglomeration. So it's pretty much straight from Duluth. So we had on the shore, we had a camp, and we had high hopes of catching fish. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, just a really pretty spot. So a bunch of us went on our traditional, we packed up on Father's Day, and then there we are. One of our chaperones, Nick Olday, has a drone and can take pictures, and so we have some pictures of things. And this is typically what we do is we stage the trip in the shop, and then away we go. So maybe Kaylin, you want to tell a little bit about we actually departed from the marina.
Yeah, so in Canada, they don't have any docks and stuff, so we usually just have to pull up on the land and figure out how not to get all wet and get our stuff wet. But we were lucky enough, we found a place that had a dock, had a marina, and then we could go to where we were staying at. So we actually had to put the boats in and then put all of our stuff on the boats and take them over to where we were staying. And so there was the marina, boats were in and out, but we kind of took up the whole place. We were like, oh, let's get everyone together, let's stay together. But luckily there was like not a lot of people putting in that night. I actually have a sweatshirt in my truck, I should have brought it in. Crane Lake, where that marina's on, there's a shop like right behind where this picture was taken, and you can get a bunch of like souvenirs and stuff.
And the most popular thing was ice cream.
Yeah, there's ice cream there.
A little different than our Canada trip where there is no ice cream. So if you look across that marina, yeah, I can't. It's kind of light in here, but King William's Narrows is where we were by, and it's just like a real skinny place where there's like big rock walls. And we were, if you see that, it's not, we don't have our video, huh? Dang. But we would be, our camp is on the very left edge of that shore. And then King William's Narrows is that, you can see where that boat is coming from. This is one of our drone pictures. We did have a little video with that, but maybe it's not, I think you're not in Google-ness.
It's in PDF.
Oh, it is, okay, well, anyway. And then, here's our camp. Maybe Kaylin can tell a little bit about how we set things up.
Yeah, so we had 2 docks, which was really nice because of all the boats we had there. So we kind of just, if you can see, I don't know, come up here. If you can see right there, that's our big ice chest we had. That thing was really heavy to get on and off the boats. But I think the other dock is right over there.
Yep, it's
one of the sides. And so you could come, there was a trail right up through there and another trail linking on the other side, and they all came together. And then, so if you're going up the trails, they all connected here, and then the camps were off like that. And so we loaded up all the boats and stuff with all of our items and things we brought along and carried them up to our camp. Yep, here's our other dock, and if you can see that point right there, that leads to the King Narrows. And John Theobald and his 2 sons, Cole Theobald and JR, they brought their pontoon, which was really nice for carrying stuff across. And yeah.
This is looking the other way, right?
Yeah,
Kaylin?
that's looking at the lake from one of the campsites. And people hung up their hammocks and stuff.
So, there's another one of our drone pictures. So there's connecting lakes, and, well, here's the deal. It's supposed to be a fishing trip, and I tried really hard and I caught a fish. And I'm not exaggerating. So we had to, like everything in this past school year, Kaylin and I and the rest of the group, we had to shift our focus. So we found out after the first day, we're gonna have to do some things differently. So before we came to our camp, I talked to this nice lady that was the owner of the marina, who marked on a map some cool places to go hiking. And so one of the places that we went, we had to get here by boat. It was an inland lake that's not developed. It was Makuta Lake. And they're doing all kinds of really cool DNA lake trout studies on it. And for a DNA geek like me, I can't get enough of it. But anyway, we took a hike over there, and we'll show you some of the pictures that we had. This is on a rock on that lake, looking the other way from that other picture.
That was the one you could hike to that building.
Yep, that's in here, yep. So we did, it was kind of windy, but it was really warm that day, so we did a little swimming. And then this is one of our hiking spots. We went to this ruins here. That is actually one, not that we should glorify villains or anything, but this was one of John Dillinger's hideout cabins, and so we went there, and it was, okay, so you saw that, but it was really pretty. This was, part of what we saw on our hike to the ruins.
Yeah.
And then maybe Caitlin tell about, this was that next day, when we went to that gorge.
So after that, we took the boats up the King Passageway thing, and we stopped at a dock and parked all of our boats, and there was a trail you went up to see all these brush kind of waterfall things. There was like mini waterfalls, pretty much what they were. And all the kids had really fun. We all had really fun hiking up there, and like, if you can see right there, they had to like climb down these big rocks over here to get over to that. And so, yeah, they had really fun. We had really fun doing that. And yeah, that's more pictures of it. And the trail was actually like, it was cleared out enough you could see it really good. So.
Yeah, in the Google form of this, we've got some drone video going down through there. I'll have to share it with you guys so you can see it. And this was back near our camp.
Yeah, so we took our boats out, and we were kind of fishing at first, but we had our swimsuits on in case we wanted to jump in or find a beach to jump into. And so they were skipping rocks and throwing footballs in there, and it was on a beach, but there were a lot of people on the beach, so we went over on the other side.
And this is our like I said, we shift the focus from fishing to hiking, like sunset pontoon rides. We ate a lot of marshmallows, and then maybe Kaylin, you can explain the card game Pine Cone.
Yeah, so if you've ever heard the game Spoons,
Sure.
well, that's banned because you have to grab, and Miss Ann doesn't want anyone getting their hands hurt. So we decided to play with pine cones, but be nicer with it so Miss Allen wouldn't ban it from us. So instead of having spoons on the picnic table, we had pine cones. And Miss Allen's boyfriend, who went along, everyone thought it was so funny when he said pine cone. Because when we first started, he didn't know how to play, so instead of grabbing a pine cone like you're supposed to, he said it. And so everyone was...
My boyfriend, Dwayne Hallenbrand, comes from his parents their first language was German. And so he just has a little bit of a remnant accent when he says pine cone. It's kind of hilarious. I don't know how to describe it. And then on the way home, we stopped at Wisconsin's largest, tallest waterfall. It was Patterson Park.
Yeah, some of the kids, all of us weren't too happy at first that we had to get out because we were already running late on the way home. But I think as soon as all of us saw the waterfall, we were glad we got to see it.
Forced sightseeing.
Yeah. And this is the whole group. And as you can see, Otis, the little dog up there, Cole and J.R. Theobald and their dad John brought their dog because, well, we weren't going to Canada, so you don't got to worry about crossing the dog over the border. So
yeah, so it was, some of you know it, and I'll do it now after we've had this presentation, but I always write a little story for the paper, and if you look closely, everybody's name is incorporated into the story. And so this year's story, and you guys even have insider information, I'm going to talk about Otis as a chaperone, and you'll think that Otis took the pontoon out, and at some point you're going to wonder who Otis Theobald is, and look at the pictures and count the names. So anyway, that'll be fun to do. So there you go, right?
Well, truly, thank you so much, Pam, to you for your organizational skills. You left no stone unturned in terms of preparation and planning, and then assembling these fantastic volunteers, inclusive of Otis, but also for providing this opportunity for kids at a time when they so desperately needed it. We needed it, right? And so thank you, and I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your summer here to come and share with such enthusiasm and excitement in your eyes about what a great trip you had.
And we're thankful too. We know, if you think back to the context of the time of your decision, there's a lot of stuff going on, and my job is to make opportunities available, and right now in this time frame that we're living in, you guys got to kind of sort it out, right? And so that's not taken lightly. I know that, there was a lot of thought into the decision and approval, and, we appreciate that. And, if you would have said no, we would have accepted that too. That's, my job is making it, and the students' job, we organize it together, and then, you guys are going to have, I'm sure there'll be more decisions on the line, but we do appreciate the time you took in considering the trip too.
Thank you. Canada, right?
Yes, today, did you read the news?
I read that today, that they're
There you
about
go.
to reopening the border.
We'll catch a fish.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, moving on to 6B, committee member reports. We will start with the Joint Safety and Wellness and Education. Leah, I'll let you do that report.
Sure. So, so as Dr. Sloan already said, one of the things we talked about was online registration. And everyone should know you have the option to purchase Chromebook insurance as part of registration. That was kind of interesting news that I didn't know. Also, we talked about there will be a summer school report, which Dr. Sloan also mentioned. All of the Chromebooks have been checked in, and our staff is working very diligently to figure out what's missing, what's working, what's damaged, what's what with the hundreds and hundreds of Chromebooks that came back. Let's see. We also talked about our equity work and the NEMI team and everything that they're up to. I'm usually more prepared than this, so I apologize. We also talked about the at-risk plan, which we will talk about again here as a group in a little bit. And that was basically our meeting, and then we will split off to our two separate committees after this. Did I miss anything?
Not that I can think of.
All right.
Nice job. Any questions for Leah? All right. Moving on to 6C, May 1 to 23, state budget update. Dr. Slerman.
Good evening again. I thought maybe I would just provide for the public as well as you, the board, what we've learned coming out of this state budget. And Scott, our friend and colleague, is coming to the microphone too, as he's also going to provide some insights. If I were to just share this link or share this picture with everyone, this came from a webinar that I attended last Friday afternoon. And out of the 8 or 9 different, actually 13 different pages of the webinar, this one really stood out to me because this speaks to what impact the budget is going to have on school districts all throughout the state. Revenue limits. In essence, I regret to tell you tonight that there is no new sustainable money coming into this district for the upcoming school year. And we've seen a reduction in what our potential reduction in what our property taxes will be because state aid increased. But it's a misnomer to say that that means there's more money coming in because we're getting more state aid. Because the revenue limit wasn't adjusted for any school district in the state. Unless, of course, a school district has gone to referendum to exceed their revenue limit for a period of time. So this is one piece that really, I think, ties many school districts' hands at this point. That coupled with the fact that those school districts that are good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and had previously long ago established a low revenue limit, usually in order to help those school districts, there's been an increase in revenue ceiling. So you may remember one year we were at $9,700, we were able to go up to $10,000, and I think that's about where we sit now, is it not? We were hoping that we might be able to raise that because we're a low spending district up even just a little bit more. But again, school districts that are similarly situated to us don't have that benefit under the new budget. There's no typical increase, as you might expect when it comes to per pupil categorical aid. You may have heard this term before, and we've said it's about $100. It's in fact, when I first started in Wisconsin, it was typically you could expect $225 every year. That increase each of the next 2 years is 0. No new sustainable increases to our school district in the next 2 years. We know that 73% of all school districts in the state of Wisconsin, they lost students in their schools in enrollment. And you know, of course, that enrollment is a key driver in funding our schools based on a 3-year rolling average. And the goal was maybe to take 2020 and hold all school districts harmless from any reduction it will have seen because of the pandemic. That too was not part of the budget, so we will be impacted by that in our overall numbers. And then lastly, a piece that's important to us as fewer and fewer people are entering into the world of public education is our ability to hire annuitants, hired annuitants we call them, people who have exited the organization or school districts and retired, receiving a benefit, allowing them to come back and work in our schools in key positions, reading specialists, occupational therapists, those really difficult school psychologists, difficult to fill positions where there's not a lot in the queue for us that we want to look to some of our retired colleagues. We're not able to do that without them having to give up their WRS annuity in lieu of maintaining employment with us. So when you hear me say no new dollars, sustainable dollars, I want to be careful to differentiate that for this board because there are some one-time dollars that could, and I underscore the word could, be available to us. And you've heard the term ESSER. We received some ESSER $1 back last year, and those dollars have been expended for the purposes of maintaining student and staff safety. Everything from the cleaning agents you see to the fogging systems to the air filtration systems, those dollars were used for that purpose. There is a round of one-time dollars called SR2 that must be spent federally by September 30th of 2023. And then just like Star Wars, there's SR3, The Empire Strikes Back. That will be another sum of money that comes from the federal government, but that money must be spent by September 30th of 2024. That particular sum of funding, and again, we don't know what kind of funding we're to be expecting from SR2 or 3. We have a general understanding, but we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. SR3 has a few strings tied to it. One of them is that some of that money must be used for recapturing student achievement that we may have lost as a result of the pandemic. And that will be something that we'll want to talk with the board about in terms of, does that look like contracted services for employees? What does that look like, and how might we use that money if we qualify for it? One of the requirements also of SR3 that is unlike SR1 and 2 is that it also requires our communication with our community about how those dollars are to be spent. This is to be a joint plan of the community to help move us forward. In order to qualify for SR3 dollars, the state legislature, through the Joint Finance Committee, required school districts to demonstrate that they were in person for instruction at least 50% of the school year last year. So what does that look like? Just a back of the napkin kind of number, and just before the meeting, Leah and I were talking about our student hours of instruction. We have calculated we may have fallen just a bit short of that 50%. However, one of the things we want to do is do a deep dive into the good work that Brian Johnson and others have done around support for special education students during the pandemic that might allow our number to hover above that. I want to remind the community who might be listening into this that some of the decision about our ability to hold school in person last year did not necessarily rest with the people at this table. It rested with decisions that were made, either good or bad, putting a value on it, but that the Public Health Madison-Dane County precluded school districts from coming into school in person on a more regular basis based upon some of their requirements. So we're going to monitor this one very closely because there could be some substantive dollars that could be made available. But I caution the board that these are one-time, non-sustainable dollars. And so I really would advise us, if we're going to be tapping into those dollars for personnel, we be careful about what that portends for us past 2023, past 2024. And then one other piece that I think is important, just sharing with the board and the community about the budget, is there was a sum of about $100 million that the governor set aside for additional one-time dollars to be shared with school districts. And we learned over the weekend that that money is going to be allocated based upon student enrollment for this upcoming school year. So they'll use the third Friday count to determine what that sum of money would be, and then they multiply some amount. My guess is somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere between $60 and $65 per pupil in year one of the biennium, and then $60 to $65 in year two of the biennium. So instead of that $225 that I spoke of in per pupil aid that can be used to help with rising costs, health insurance, providing our employees with a wage increase, these dollars are one-time dollars, and we need to think about how those dollars will be spent as well. Last thing, and then I'll turn it over to Scott, is this is not a fait accompli. There is still opportunity for people to weigh in and let our leaders at the state level know of the impact, in my opinion, stranglehold it's having on public education and our children. There were about $985 million in additional revenues that have been set aside. Originally, that was going to go into something called a rainy day fund that the Joint Finance Committee would like to have established. But the governor vetoed this as part of his line item authority. And so at the conclusion, it is believed, of the next budget biennium, likely in 2023 or so, it's believed that those extra dollars could be used to help make for a better 2023 and through 2025 biennium. I would argue that help is needed now because we are only able to access one-time dollars for any kind of increase in our expenditures. So I know I've taken a lot of information in a short period of time and passed it along, but those seem to be the biggies that come out of this. But maybe you have other things on your mind, questions you may have.
I have two questions, Dr. Sarno. It's only the SR3 dollars that have the requirement that we were in school 50% of the time. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding in order to qualify for those.
And so not SR2? Just, okay. And then the extra money that the governor has allocated for schools, are there any requirements on how we spend that, or is it just going to be general? This is how we see that.
Yeah, great questions. So I do anticipate there'll be some direction from the Department of Public Instruction who will distill that through administrative regs for us. I think they're just trying to, at this point, develop a dissemination plan for those dollars because they, people are wondering as they prepare. So I suspect we'll get a little more what's loose and tight in how we expend those dollars. I do see school districts using those dollars for more than one-time expenses, and I caution us as a school district from doing that because you heard that proverbial kicking the can down the road. We could be in a world of hurt 2 years from now if we have supplanted those dollars, not supplemented them. Thank you. Thank you.
So do you have the same problem? Well, no, that's federal money, sorry.
Question. We still can hire retired teachers, right? But there's like a window, we can't hire with them within a certain amount of time from when they've retired.
That's right. Legally, we can enter into any kinds of negotiations with someone who's just retired for a period of 75 days. If you do that and WRS catches wind, it's just not ethical to do it, but if they catch wind, that really puts that person's annuity at jeopardy. So we would never want to do that. But then that person can only work a certain number of hours before they have to give up their annuity because they're making too much.
So depending where that $100 million goes, I mean, you're sort of in the same spot you are with the money with the state aid, right? So they've got to funnel that money to us in a way that we can actually use, right? I mean, and isn't this is a question? I'm getting to a question. I mean, they've played a shell game with the state aid, right? I mean, it's essentially they want because they need to prove to the federal government that they've spent as a state that whatever the amount of money is on public education, correct?
Yeah, you've heard that term maintenance of effort before, right?
Yeah.
And so what the Joint Finance Committee had to demonstrate was that they had a maintenance of effort in providing enough local state dollars to help match what the federal government was bringing in. So had they chosen, and there were some who were thinking about just not taking any of those federal dollars, then we wouldn't have met maintenance of effort from the prior biennium. So it's not only that, Rod, you used the term shell game. I think that's a really good description because in actuality, no new dollars means that you may increase state aid, but then the amount of property taxes went down, so you're still at a level playing field in terms of dollars. So it looks good, we're lowering property taxes,
right.
But at what expense on the other side of the ledger?
Right.
With not even being able to increase revenue limits, which is really the hard part.
Right.
If we at least had that, we would be in a better spot. But we don't.
So what would be the best way for us to take our share of that $100 million?
I think that's to be determined.
Okay.
We'd like to work with the board. We'd like to work with our staff. We'd like to work with our leaders to identify how can we use that to leverage greater gains in students' achievement, bring people back up to where they were, the children back up to where they were. I think we might want to talk about what kind of remedial programs that we can invest in, curriculum-based interventions.
Right.
I think that might mean staffing levels in terms of limited term contracts.
Right.
That we have to bake into the backside of that once that person departs us in 2023 or 24, and
Right.
once we have a position for them with our local dollars, we're going to need to add some money for what inevitably would be an increase to our UI, our unemployment insurance claims.
And so just so that I'm understanding, I mean, all of those uses would dictate a particular funnel, for lack of a better word.
Dr. Salerno, you mentioned you just started putting these numbers together as far as how far short we came in the number of hours. Will those numbers be continuing to be worked on, or will we be made aware of that?
Of course. What we're doing now, thanks for asking that question. What we're doing now is we're actually taking each student by student, and multiplying out the number of minutes they've been in our schools. Because I want to get to that 50%. I don't want to leave any money on the table. And so by having our special education students, remember our Virtual Plus program here, I think if we start to go back and look at those children who are here every day for 4 hours, that's going to help us get closer and closer to that 50% threshold. So it's going to be a pretty painstaking process, but it's labor time well spent.
May I just share that, yes, it is a labor of love, and I think it's fantastic that you are doing it, but how frustrating it is, and how much I want to share with those that made this requirement. That, now instead of our time being spent on things that are more productive for all of our students, we're counting and multiplying hours. I mean, I don't think that those people who are making these decisions really have a good understanding of the impact in our district. Thank you for doing that.
It's a good team effort, and those of you who know Tammy Baronic know her to be somebody you give her a mission to show. She's awesome. Scott, how about just a couple of thoughts from your report perspective?
So a couple of just reminders, I think, more than anything else for the board and the community. Number one, just keep in mind that enrollment, of course, is so important to us for a variety of reasons. From a funding point of view, our third-party account in September, really important. We talked at the finance committee earlier this evening about that importance. So just keep that in mind. Enrollment will be important for us in September, like it is every year. Also, in the month of October, when we officially find out how much state aid we'll be getting, at that point, we'll be able to determine our tax levy. And speaking of tax levy, we discussed it at the Finance Committee meeting. Right now, we're projecting a conservative 2% increase in property values. That helps us determine our ultimate mill rate. And so when we get to the annual meeting, and you have the annual meeting booklet, you'll be able to see a whole historical perspective on the mill rate for our school district. But to Dr. Salerno's point, when we project a decrease in property taxes, and then on top of that, project any type of increase in property values, of course, we'll see a reduction in mill rates. So that's what we're projecting right now. And since I know I'm live here, I don't necessarily have to tell all the people personally in audience, remember that our annual meeting is August 9th at 6 o'clock at the Intermediate Center cafeteria. So all are welcome to attend.
Will all the new construction help us with property taxes? I feel like all the new construction, I feel like there's houses just popping up all over.
Yeah, so when I say conservative 2%, it very well could be 4%, 5%. The concern is if we get a little too antsy projecting a property value something greater than it ends up becoming, then we actually in October find ourselves maybe increasing the mill rate more than we aggressively planned for. So we thought a 2% would be a nice safe place. We're seeing a projected reduction. It's always nice to be able to come back and say that we're seeing even a little bit greater reduction. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Other questions?
No, I would just say,
In terms of advocacy, I think we have an opportunity here, of course, and Jessica and others on that committee. We have community members on the community and legislative advocacy committee, say that 5 times fast. And, you know, I think that we've got a meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks. Monday night, that's good, thank you. And we're gonna really dig into this stuff, and we may call on our colleagues who are not on the committee to help us advocate in this very, very important time.
All right, we'll move on to 7 action items. Our 7A is consideration of at-risk district plan and policy 342.4.
We're here tonight to present our at-risk plan for approval. We are going to give the very short version because almost every single person here has already heard it because we presented this to the Education and SOC Committee together. But for edification for the community to also hear, we wanted to be able to present it as well. So we had a whole task force coming together of administrators, teachers, including our at-risk teachers from the high school, and then our student services staff as well. We're all part of that committee. And so the reason why we're presenting this plan is because every school district in Wisconsin is required to identify and serve students who are at risk and who meet that definition, who may be at risk for not graduating high school. So we're annually, and we're going to come back every year and kind of focus on different components of the plan. But we're going to come back and keep presenting to the board on this plan what it looks like, different goals that we have, and how we're moving forward with our students at risk. And so some of the plans that we have, our goals are early intervention, identifying right away so that we can intervene and develop a plan, increase student success, and then increase our graduation rate. And then involving parents and our community resources as much as possible. And so that way we're developing mentorships, developing relationships, developing work-based experiences, all kind of trying to meet where students are at, what their community goals are, what they want to do when they're out of high school, and trying to connect with that to kind of push for the graduation requirements to be met. And then also be looking at basic needs and how that impacts students. So are they food insecure? So can we help with some of those areas? Are they babysitting siblings, and so they can't really get work done, and so how can we make modifications or accommodations to schoolwork to help support them within school and outside of school? So all those things that are basic needs of housing and food, and how are we meeting them from a student services standpoint as well?
So you may be wondering, what does at-risk mean? So basically, a student that would be considered at risk is a student in either grades, anywhere between grades 5 through 12. So it does start as young as about that 11, 12-year-old age. And the student has to qualify in 2 or more of the categories that are listed on the slide, which I'm not going to go through right now because you guys can see that. But while we do watch all students and how they're doing either academically, behaviorally, socially, and all grade levels for the purposes of a legal term at risk, it's grades 5 through 12. So, what are those other indicators then, as we're looking at students as well, who may drop out or at risk? They could be behavioral indicators. So, are there school discipline referrals? What does their attendance look like? Maybe it's a certain content or skill proficiency in a math or academic area like reading that they may be deficient in. We may get some community information. We have really strong connections. That's due to our student services team, whether it's neighbors helping neighbors, joining forces with families, the Mount Horeb Police Department. We get that information, those referrals, and that from those organizations as well. Sometimes, because we were talking in our joint committee we had last time, Mount Horeb is great because we're big yet we're small. So we really know every student, and we can look at the attendance for every student, and we know the families. So we have that personal data history as well. And unfortunately, we also know the traumatic events that go on in kids' lives that could also put them at risk. So what do? We have data review meetings, so we look at more of that academic data. We have weekly student services team meetings, where the student services team members in each building meet with the building administrators to talk through and how to support these students who may be labeled as at risk. We have problem-solving teams then, so teachers or parents can ask for a meeting on a student to solve through maybe an academic problem or a social problem or a behavioral problem as well. And those would be typically weekly or bi-weekly. We then notify families if a student is in an academic or behavioral intervention. And then we are also increasing the frequency that grade level, like credit deficiency letters, go home at the high school level. So to support them is developing a system to send home those letters more frequently so families know if their senior or their junior may not graduate because they don't have enough credits.
So when we talk about community supports, there's a full list that you have access to, but here's a few of them that are specifically helping us right now this past year help students graduate. So we have the Challenge Academy, which is a military-based school that's in Toma. So we've taken students there, we've supported students. They do the GED test, they do an academic as well as military component within their school. And so they come back and then they earn all of their GEDO, they pass all of their GEDO tests. And if they haven't, then we kind of continue to help support them to finish it off. We do have a GEDO 2 program within our school, within our high school. And then we have students who are in Operation Fresh Start, and that's a program out of Madison. And that's more construction-based, so students actually earn credit, do school work skills, and build houses at the same time. And so that's really a program specifically for students who are interested in kind of some of that hands-on construction field, because they do also get paid for that as well. So it also supports students who maybe their basic needs, looking at needing a job, they can have a job during the school day, earn some money, and a diploma at the same time. So those are just a few good examples.
So tonight, we are looking for consideration for the plan, as well as consideration for revising the policy that goes along with that and ready for this plan. And the policy just has really some small changes. We took out the last paragraph that talks specifically about terms like RTI and MLSS and TSS. We feel you don't need that language anymore. And we feel that removing that last paragraph will suffice in updating it to make our plan up-to-date.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Point of clarification. What are you moving to approve?
Motion to approve the plan and the updates to the policy.
Please, excuse me, I know that there's a motion on the table. We know that the policy likely couldn't be approved tonight because poor Kimberly is ill. I'm wondering, would it be okay if we were to split the two and maybe have a motion to approve?
It didn't say first reading, so it didn't even occur to me.
You're right, actually.
Apologies. Motion to approve the plan.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Jessica to approve the plan. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will see 342.4 back again next time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Sir, I don't think you want to go far.
Yeah, I gotta grab my extra papers.
Moving on to 7B, consideration of the business department on the digital marketing course referred by the education committee.
Okay, so we have a series of new courses. The first one is the digital marketing course. And pulling out the course proposal. So this will be a new course within our business education department. We currently have a teacher, Allison Carroll, who's it's really hard with COVID time and all. This might be her third year coming up in the district. And she had some ideas when she first entered our school district about the courses, but she wanted to learn more about Mount Horeb and the courses that we had. And now that she's been here for a couple of years, she sees some areas where we continue to grow. And that area is looking at more marketing courses. Currently, we have a standalone 101 foundational marketing class. And then we also have the sports and entertainment marketing. What she's looking for is a counterpart to the sports and entertainment marketing called digital marketing. And that's the course in front of you tonight. With the digital marketing class, so let's say students are really interested in marketing, they would take that introductory marketing class. And then if they wanted to continue on, they could either take sports and entertainment marketing, which would be offered every other year, or digital marketing, which is offered every other year. So we have a gap within that digital marketing pathway for kids. So that is the course that we're looking at to propose for starting the 22-23 school year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There we go.
It is. There's a ton of money in that these days. I've been in, well, I forget where I've been. We've got young kids doing this stuff, making
Influencers.
money hand over fist. It's a great opportunity. I'm glad we're doing it. That's very meaningful.
Are you glad enough to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the new digital marketing course. Second.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jeff. Further discussion?
I have a question. What are we teaching them for search engine optimization? And the only reason I ask is that now, I mean, like Google hires people to write algorithms to do, like it's not like it used to be where you put in like keywords and meta tags, and I mean, it's like this whole other wild animal. So I'm just curious, are we just teaching like kind of what it is? Or do you?
No, you still have to do it.
I mean, you do, but I mean, it's not as easy as it used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, which is why I think this course is totally invaluable.
Oh, I do too. I was just, it's more of a curiosity out of anything else.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, she's going to introduce the concept, yes. I don't know how detailed that is at this point, because she hasn't fully developed the course yet, because we haven't had approved yet. But we can definitely keep you in the loop on that.
Just curious.
I have a quick question too, Sarah.
Yeah.
You mentioned $1,400 for a one-year license.
Yeah.
Is that renewed every year?
Yeah.
Or is that, okay.
Yeah, very, yeah. Part of her curriculum also probably would be then embedded within the high school budget for that course.
Okay.
What is the software? I don't know if I read what the software was.
It is, it's in my notebook. Give me 1 second here.
This is just fascinating to me.
Keep asking questions while I answer. Might take me a second.
Oh, that's okay.
If you want to make a motion, we have a motion, no?
We have a motion.
Okay. I will get you that answer in a little bit, Leah. I do have it. I just don't have it, obviously, at the top of my phone.
I would imagine we would need multiple softwares
Well, it's
to do the different.
a digital
Thanks.
textbook and it runs simulations.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The exact name I'm trying to find for you because I do have it right now. I will get that to you though.
Okay.
That's okay. I think you'll be back up here, so, you know.
I'm not moving, I don't think.
So we have a motion by Rod, seconded by Jeff, to approve the business department's new digital marketing course. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we will move on to 7C, consideration of the English department's proposed name change from the short film to film studies,
Yep.
referred by Education Committee.
Correct. Yep. So within, yeah, I can open up Dr. Slinger. So within this presentation itself, I'm not going to go through it all, but on the last slide, Dr. Slinger, there is a nice synopsis of the problem or what they're looking to change to finding a solution. And the first one that's up on the table is the short film. And it is looking to keep the same content, the same feel of the course to an extent, but looking to make sure that the name of the course will be allowed by universities. So Molly Bilsey, who's our high school department lead and our English department cast member, reached out to UW-Madison a couple of times. We did confirm that based on the course rewrite and the course name change, that would be more of an English credit they would allow when a student enrolled. So we want to make sure that in any course, that it would be allowed by university based on that course description and the name. So that's what we're looking at tonight.
Questions, board members?
Motion to approve the name change from the short film to film studies.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 7D, consideration of the English department's proposed revision and name change to applied English to non-fiction studies.
From applied English.
From applied English to non-fiction studies, yes.
So, we had an applied English course that didn't have a very good identity. And we're looking to have a better identity for it. With the focus on nonfiction studies, making sure that students hit some more of those technical reading and writing pieces that they may need maybe in a career, or maybe they move on to a post-secondary opportunity. So we're looking to have a better identity for this class, a better focus for this class, to meet the student needs as they go off to college and go off into the career world.
At the risk of sounding like I want to tinker with the books that are being chosen, and I don't, do you have any examples of the nonfiction books that will be read?
We did have a book that was on the table that was chosen because it was a nonfiction text as a memoir, and it was also a contemporary nonfiction memoir, and it was also a text that could be offered at different reading levels, which was important as well. But we're not quite sure on that text yet, so I'm not comfortable naming a text without the department fully going to get that right. So we are looking at a couple different texts as possibilities, but they do want to make sure that they have interest, it's contemporary, and we can look for a different readability level.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just curious.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, seconded by Leah. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to 7E, consideration of the English department's proposed removal of the contemporary literature course referred by the Education Committee.
Thank you. So the contemporary literature class, from my understanding, was created at a time where many of the texts in English 10 and 11 were part of the original canon of authors that are out there, some of the classics. And contemporary lit wasn't embedded as much as it is now within English 9 and 10. So to have a contemporary class isn't really needed anymore. A contemporary lit class isn't needed anymore. So the department is looking to remove that class because they have another class coming up that they would think would fill a gap that we currently have. And whenever we offer classes to the Board of Education, we want to make sure that we're just not offering new. We also have to look at what we need to remove as well and alter. So this would be a class that we would be looking to remove because the original intent and purpose isn't there anymore because it's embedded in what we do.
Motion to approve the removal.
Second. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 7F, consideration of the English department's proposed new journalism course referred by the education.
So since we removed the course, we'd love to now add a course. And that's not always the case, but it is tonight, where we have had a gap with not having a journalism class in our school district. And this is the time that the district feels that they could present a course. We do have a teacher that had a journalism, I think, minor as well in college, and she was a former yearbook editor as well, advisor. Kelly Carlson is very interested in offering this course. We do know that news is out there, and whether it's digital marketing, it comes in the form of that, or in this journalism course, we want to make sure kids have not only those career options, but writing is all around them, and they don't even know it, and messages all around them, and they don't even know it. So we want to make sure that this new course not only provides them skills on how to be an effective efficient writer, but also the contemporary social knowledge that goes into writing as well.
And I would just, and Ms. Billsey doesn't need my help, but the reason I think this is a great idea is because it teaches kids how to generate content ethically. So that's a really, really important thing today when we got people gathering and spitting out all kinds of information that may or may not be true. So I think, if you look at this course as something broader than just a journalism course, as a course in content gathering and content creating, then this is a terrific thing, particularly when you package it with the ethical considerations that journalists need to or should adhere to.
Thank you.
Sarah, are you comfortable with these new classes that are proposed? Are you comfortable with the bandwidth and capacities of these teachers? Will any of these include a new position?
Nope, it's all FTE neutral. So with removing courses, and that's why we can't keep adding, because the FTE issue, but also we don't want to keep offering courses that can't run, right? So, no, we haven't had an issue with that at all. And just think about evening in general, short film is there, just a name change. We removed one class to put in the journalism class, and then are reshaping the class. So everything is course zero balance neutral, which would then be FTE neutral. And overall cost neutral. There are some pieces, but I would be purchasing texts and would be phasing out or buying new text for old text anyways. So it really isn't the cost or an FTE issue. We just want to make sure kids have what they need.
Can I piggyback on that? Because yours is a very thoughtful question. Many of these classes are developed by our staff. They've seen this gap, and they've worked with their colleagues to build this kind of course, and kind of follows its way through the principal and on the education committee and on to you fine folks. So thank you for thinking like that. We've got to be both fiscally prudent, but also thinking about where there's an opportunity for us to do that.
So I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jeff. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Leah. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. I think that's the last one for you tonight.
For a while.
Okay.
Great job on all that stuff, Sarah. Thank you.
Well, it's the teachers. I'm just a messenger, so yeah, you did a great job.
You're a very good messenger.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to 8, citizens' comments.
Yeah, that's this time.
Let's see, citizens' comments. All right, moving on to 9, future agenda items are listed. As always, you may connect with Lily or Dr. Salerno to provide a suggested future agenda item. Moving on to 10, our schedule of next meetings is listed. Is there anything of note? I don't think so. All right, we'll move on to number 11.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Jessica to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Steve, our August 3rd dinner will be, it's
So
not
that's-
on the list, but it will be
That's where they are,
like noticed
right?
and everything.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah,
41.
We noticed as a meeting, it's not really a meeting.
Yeah.
So
No
that-
business.
That's 41. That's what I need to
Yep,
know.
that's fine.
You're
So I passed it my notes so many times, I just carried it right.
We're not-
So, students,
Appreciate it.
okay,